And that, Aaron, is why we're no longer in the gear room. We got this new place instead.
Oh, I totally get it. I totally understand. Wait, did they catch that?
Catch what?
Who cares? Anyways.
Who let you guys out of the gear room?
Girl,
We
did
just
you just hear
explained that.
the entire explanation?
But I locked you guys in there. I don't know how you guys got.
Oh. V is very intelligent and somehow figured a way.
Ain't nobody used to give a damn. Yeah, I had to go and make a different plan. Yeah, guess who didn't get included? Even though you made me better, yo, I strictly do it for the fam.
Anyway, everyone, welcome back to What Grinds Our Gears, the most random podcast with little structure. And we're in a new space, everybody.
Dun dun dun!
Ain't it so pretty?
I like it. I enjoy it very much so. Feel kind of like a talk show host.
Woo!
I don't know why.
Today's topic, we got the ghosty ghouls.
Ghosts? Ghosts?
Ghosts!
I'm afraid no ghosts. Oh, Phoenix would love this one. His favorite movie is Ghostbusters.
Well, I mean, everyone knows the history of ghosts. I'm just gonna gloss over that because we all know it's basically everyone's whole thing of the afterlife. For Buddhist people, they just don't want to go to hell to deal with Enma.
Sure.
For Christians, they don't want to go to hell for Satan. So it's just
So they're
like,
stuck in purgatory, or well, purgatory's different, but
so they're just like, what happens if you just don't go into the afterlife? You become a ghost.
or if you have unfinished business,
Mm-hmm.
much like the movie Ghost.
And become a revenant. But that's a
Or
whole nother
poltergeist.
category.
Wait, poltergeists are people too, V.
I know they're people too. Like banshees.
However, demons are not. So let's separate that. No talking demons. That's not to say that some ghosts can't possess you.
We
that's
could
supposed-
have had such a wonderful podcast.
Well, we can intermix. We can throw demons in with this too. I don't
It's
care.
too late, Aaron. Anyway,
Watch the demon cry.
aside from the demon talk, I don't know about how ghosts are kind of intermingled in today's media like they have in the past. Because in the past, everything about ghosts was just always so dreary and like it was all evil, when it's mostly just very sad.
Yeah, mostly. And you ever notice that there's different types of ghosts, kind of like there's different types of aliens,
Mhm.
Like you have the repeaters, who they seem to just be playing on playback. They at the same time every night you can see them walk across the bridge or do this or do that, right?
Then you have.
And then you have the
Oh, after you, Aaron.
no, go ahead.
No, after you.
I was gonna say then you have the intelligent haunts, who are people who have become strongly attached to something or an object or a house
Mhm.
and are left behind, and they actively haunt the house trying to find answers. It almost seems like they're trying to find answers intelligently. They can do what they want and they're not always on time.
Then you have those that are like the revenants that are cognizant of all things abnormal, but actually have more of a corporeal form that can be skeletal in certain formats, or just ectoplasmic, where they can have an attachment towards stuff, whether it's a place, a dimension, a person, being, and exact their own revenge or their own sort of conquest, even if it means trying to do stuff that would be somewhat supernatural to other human beings.
Yeah, I was gonna say, aren't revenants more of a malevolent kind of force instead of?
It kind of depends on what the whole course of their revenge is.
Whatever their unfinished business is. I see.
Like banshees, or the people that Doolahans capture up in Ireland.
I see.
Yeah, every time I hear ghosts, I normally think of like unfinished business, because otherwise, if you have nothing left to finish, you will go to whatever place you believe in. But usually, if you have something unfinished, you're still there wandering.
I find it funny that even with shows with like legitimate shows like Ghost Hunters, where they take a real kind of objective way of doing things and they try to explain it away before they just jump to Ghost.
Mhm.
You know, and there's many shows like it, but there's none that are ghost hunters.
Yeah.
The amount of, I can only call it evidence. I can't call it proof. The amount of evidence that they have, you know, I've seen some of their evidence. They have shadows. They have full-on apparitions. They have, EMF readings and what are the tape recordings called? When they record, they ask a question.
Box recordings, whatever. The noise sound box.
When they they ask a question, and then they wait for the dead noise and they play it back and listen to it because you can't hear it with the.
And it has like that beeping noise to it, right? I know what you're talking about.
I think that's another one. But anyways, it's just surprising to me that it's all dismissed away, right, by scientists because it can't be proven, even though they've repeated it and they've actually used the scientific method to do it. You know, they take an experiment, they put a flashlight on the ground, they ask the ghost to turn it on, it turns on, they turn it back off, they ask the ghost to turn it on again, it turns it on. Then they get into a more detailed form of the experiment. So they've done the rinse and repeat part of the experiment, right? Does this action, if I do this, will it repeat itself? That's part of the scientific method. Then they make it more complicated. Blink twice for yes and once for no. You know, and it'll do it. And it's funny that they're actually using a form of the scientific method to prove whether or not it's real. With scientists out there like, nope, you're all idiots, can't prove it.
Well, I mean, I think scientists just don't want to prove it because they don't want to accept that there is something that you can't explain with science. Because then they'll be like, oh, well, if we can have this be explained without science, then I guess everything that we've built up for all these years is for nothing. They don't need a scientist anymore to explain everything.
Well, I think it's... So I have a few kind of, I guess they'd be opinions or maybe theories. I don't know, I'm a conspiracist, if that's a thing.
It is.
So a lot of times I watch these shows and they explain that the reason why there's certain hauntings or certain apparitions or certain things going on in certain areas is because the level of fear is usually higher, or the level of stress, not necessarily the level of fear, but stress itself, which, you know, fear is kind of a form of. If you're on an airplane, if you're afraid of flying, you know, or if there's turbulence or you're going through a storm, everybody's going to be stressed out because nobody wants to fall out of the sky, right? That's how you get a ghost on a plane. The stress level's high, the fear level's high. Cemeteries, well, duh, you're surrounded by death. You're already, especially if you're there after dark, and I don't care who you are, you go into a cemetery after dark for whatever reason you're there.
Yeah.
It's creepy as hell, you know? I hear V grunting in the background. What was that for?
Sure, he has a couple of stories about
some experiences, V? Are you okay?
That's a mature podcast.
Alrighty. Well then, Ed Gein. It's
Oh, it was nothing for like murder per se.
I'm kidding. But and you notice that there's a pattern there. If something happens in your house and you can't explain it, you get nervous. If something else happens in your house and you can't explain it, and it's somehow tied to the first thing that happened, you get a little bit more nervous. So it's kind of like building fear until it comes to this culmination where the entity can finally break through to you, or if it's a malevolent being, finally scratch you, you know, because the fear level's kind of gotten high enough to do. Now, I know nothing about that being true or not. I've heard it. I thought it was worth mentioning. There is, however, one thing that I have thought of that actually kind of ties into science, V. So you know how there's scientists out there that believe that there are parallel universes.
Yeah, the multiverse theory.
The multiverse theory, and they're all basically our universe is here on one plane, and there's another universe on another plane next to us, right?
No.
And they don't stay flat. They're not flat like a sheet of paper. They're like the ocean. so they're moving, right? So think of the ocean, two oceans within inches of each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at certain moments in time and space, the ebb of one universe could come close to the ebb of our universe, or the peak wave of our universe, and they come so close within, inches of touching, but not actually touching. What if those parallel universes, because there's another me in another universe, right? There's every one of us in another universe, right?
Well, technically, there are an infinite number of you.
Right. So what if we're not seeing ghosts, but our universe is just that close to another universe that we're seeing something that's happening in their universe? And what if sometimes those universes get so close, even closer than inches, like millimeters, without touching, that the image is so strong and so powerful that they can actually hear and see us, but to them we are the ghosts? You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it's possible. I mean, for
anything's
certain people that can follow with the multiverse theory, for many people that are very psychic or have all that whole ESP sort of stuff for various different events like the solar eclipse that just happened, if you try to not avoid and look dead on to it, there is a legend my grandpa told me when I was starting to hear and see ghosts and see auras and stuff, where that if you look dead on into an anomaly such as that, your mind expands, but you end up insane, seeing everything within the universe, all your infinite selves, your whole being of existence from your past, present, and future, as well as all of your infinite lifetimes from when you're first born to when you're gonna die.
It's kind of reminiscent of, well, it's not really reminiscent, like when the Native Americans do what is that called? They walk out into the wilderness until they're basically driven mad, but it's really finding themselves.
It's called a spirit quest.
Spirit quest, that's what it is. So is that kind of similar?
It's kind of, but my whole family history is filled with a lot of weird mythologies that doesn't really intertwine with anything written down in most textbooks all the way back to the Babylonian era.
I mean, for you, it sounds like it's almost like it's just a given, and you don't have to force it. And doing something like that would force it. It sounds like what the Native Americans were doing were forcing it out. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? To find that answer, to become more one with the universe or nature, Earth.
It can be either or, in my own opinion, but I already sidetracked the conversation enough with my nonsense.
You know what else does that, B?
What?
Peyote.
I'm gonna make sure I peyote after this, though.
When we first moved into this apartment, like the first couple nights we were here, I sat up in bed because I just wasn't sleepy, and I legit saw a full-on ghost, this old man, he was bent over and everything. You could see his form and everything, apparition. It was really crazy, and I've seen him off and on ever since the 2 years we've been here. And I hear random humming and during the night, and I think I see kind of stuff outside of the window. So I'm pretty sure I have an old man ghost in my apartment who just kind of hangs out.
Well, I mean, house ghosts technically don't act either malevolent or good. They're just, it depends on the people that live in their space. If they feel like it's a good enough couple, they tend to give a very warm environment that tends to leak into their own luck in the ether.
Yeah,
why do I feel like I'm the big expert in this podcast today?
Probably because you are.
Yeah.
I mean, I really, all I know about ghosts is ghost hunters and basically self-research,
I've had maybe 3 ghost experiences, and that's about it, so.
I've had a few, but they weren't serious. They weren't anything that would make anybody go, yeah, ghosts are real. I mean, there was one, and I can't even, at this point in time, I can't even remember if it was actually what I saw or if my brain just made it up and told myself that that's what I saw so many times that I believe it. You know what I mean? So me and my buddy, we used to rule our neighborhood. We'd go out and our parents would let us stay out till like midnight because we knew the neighborhood. All the neighbors knew us. All the neighbors didn't, you know, they liked us and we were cool. Anyways, we were out running around one night and I remember getting between my house and our neighbor's house and I saw this horse and it looked like a guy in a Civil War uniform with his sword drawn. So he had to have been an officer, right? Riding right at us.
Of the Confederacy.
And, well, it looked like a Union uniform because I can't say that because it was transparent and it was dark, so everything looked kind of opaque. But charging right at us, and I looked at my buddy and he said, "What?" And I pushed him, and I thought he saw it too, but I can't speak for him either. And we dove out of the way, and this guy rode right between us. I'm like, what the, you know, I'm young, I'm little. I'm like not even, I think I was 13 maybe. But again, I don't know if it was because of the game we were playing or whatever the hell we were doing at night, outside, running around in the neighborhood, or if it was something real. You know, in my head, I can picture it right now. I can still see it. But is it my brain telling me that I saw it, or did I actually see it?
What was like the surrounding area when you saw that?
We were on the curb of my street. So I lived in a nice suburban area, and my parents had a ranch style home. I was standing on the street, but it was like right between my house and my neighbor's house. So there's probably a 30-foot gap between my parents' house and my neighbor's house. 30 or 40-foot gap. So I was standing there, but in the street. So in front of my house and their house. And it's probably like midnight.
Oh,
so it was dark.
Oh, when the moon is more full, that's when most ghosts that can't really get past their past actions end up being more reanimated. Like if it was like a Civil War era uniform or something like that, it's usually just something of a former battle going in said territory, or it could have been the Indian War of one of the people on horses trying to kill off one of the natives that was on the property.
I don't know. I don't know. I never actually looked into it because it was the only time I saw it. I never saw anything like it again. And, you know, I mean, we're pretty far north. We're in Wisconsin. We're on the southern border of Wisconsin, I suppose. And I mean, there's nothing around here about any major Civil War battles, so I guess I probably should have looked into it more instead of just passing it off as it might not have been real. Maybe I should have looked into it, because my sister had a similar experience in her old house. She lived a couple blocks away from me now, and that house is over 100 and... the house is Civil War era.
Oh, wow.
And she had an experience where she heard men talking in the kitchen, and nobody else was there. And they were talking like military stuff, so she thought it was some Civil War era meeting going on. But I don't know. Again, I didn't see that one.
Many things with ghosts are weird, both in fiction and reality, but the one thing I'm trying to wrap my mind around is what people are trying to do with ghosts in fiction nowadays. Like, what the fuck are people doing?
I don't know. What are they trying to do in fiction with ghosts nowadays?
I mean, most of the time I see them, they're just this, like, people trying to use them as, like, a scare tactic, as if it's like they don't need to give a story to someone that's died. Like, the last moving story I've had of someone that was a ghost in the afterlife was The Lovely Bones, adapted from that one book series of that little girl that got killed by a child molester.
Well, I was when it was on, a huge fan of the show Ghost Whisperer, and I thought they did a pretty good job with having a bunch of, like, stories where you started out with her seeing the ghosts, and she had actually helped them reach their medium to get them to cross over.
And
that's another good show, by the way.
And another good ghost show, in my opinion, was like this might sound weird coming from me, but Drop Dead Diva.
That one was awesome.
I haven't seen that one.
It was just like this one aspiring supermodel dies and ends up in this chubs lawyer lady.
What about My Boyfriend's Back? Has nobody seen that movie? Am I the only one?
So long. It's been so long.
It's been so long. Yeah.
But I've seen it.
But I mean,
I know what that.
recently in the last few years, nothing of any substance except for like kiddie bullshit or like tired tropes of just like use them as scare tactics. Nothing really worthwhile unless it's like in a young adult novel where it's just like, oh, you get to come back to life after you die. Really?
Well, see, technically, like the Paranormal Activity movies started out as a ghost movie, right? And then they moved into a far more demonic realm. It turned out it's not really ghosts, so I can't really Paranormal Activity. Can you really count that as a ghost movie?
I count that as a breakup movie for every girl that tried to show me that.
I know how you feel, but Jenny made me watch, and now I know too much. I know too much, V. I know, like, it's not actually a ghost in the film. It's actually a demon that is taking children away for this cult that exists in corporeal form. They're kind of like witches, but they're a massive cult that do human sacrifices to this demon, to satiate this demon.
Sounds like the Mayans.
Yeah, I was thinking more like the children of the corn have grown up, and this is what they do now.
Come with us to the field.
Oh my god.
That's exactly how I felt when when they first introduced this cult family. It felt like the children of the corn had grown up and Grandma was the leader.
Huh. Well, from that whole description, all I'm thinking of is... Now this might sound stupid, but it kind of sounds as if it's none other than Granny.